Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about Node and web development and if it is a must. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, if I want to be a web developer, do I have to learn Node.js or is Node.js a must? So the short answer is yes, depending on how you define it, because I don't want the squad of people who really likes to contradict me for every single possible little thing that they can interpret in another fashion to think that what I mean is that you need to be a master of Express and Happy and Sales and like all of the different Koa and so forth, like all the different server-side frameworks or libraries for Node.js. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that today, if you want to do web development, you need JavaScript. And if you need JavaScript, you are in 99% of the cases going to need NPM or something like that. You can absolutely use Bower or something like that, but that's kind of old school these days in comparison. Like, it's not as common as using NPM or Yarn or something like that. Most people will look at you a little bit weirdly if you're using Bower, or it's not weird necessarily, but it's a little bit, I don't know, it's like, you have this sweet spot of tooling that is fairly relevant, and Bower is a little bit outside of that now. It's still relevant, it's just not as relevant as it used to be, because it used to be the big kid on the block. But anywho, so if you're doing that sort of development, you will need a package management system of some sort, and NPM and Yarn run on Node. So you're gonna have to at least know the basics of what Node is in order to install your packages and things like that. And I will even go one further, and I will say that if you're doing anything, unless you're doing very, very basic UI work with pretty much just vanilla JavaScript and pretty much just vanilla CSS or something like that, at some point you're gonna need something like Webpack or some bundler or something like that, and that's also Node, where you're actually gonna have to run some scripts or something like that. And then you have other things such as task runners, Gulp and Grunt and so forth, if you're interested in these sorts of things. And then finally, I will make a bold claim, and I will say that for the most part, anybody who does UI work in a fairly modern fashion with SPAs or something like that will at some point have the need to run a piece of JavaScript as part of their build process, or a small development server, which is usually made with Node or something like that. I mean, technically, you can survive without having any knowledge about Node. It's not like you have to be a JavaScript full stack type of person. It's just that it's almost impossible for you to get by without touching it in some fashion. It's very similar to, you don't have to have Linux as your primary operating system, but the commands in Linux are so common within infrastructure and backend work that it's almost impossible for you to go your entire career without knowing something, at least a little bit of it, unless you are really die hard into Azure and everything that is Microsoft, and you really make a commitment to not be involved in anything that has to do with outside of that ecosystem, right? So I will say that yes, I believe that Node is a must for a web developer. You don't have to be a master, but you definitely need to know about it. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to be a web developer today, you can do backend work in pretty much any language, and it doesn't have to be JavaScript. You don't have to know Node in order to create the server. But when it comes to the UI and you need to actually add JavaScript and so forth to your pages, it's very unlikely that you will be able to do so effectively without using something like NPM, Yarn, or something like this. And these things are based on Node. And if you want to go one further, make SPAs with Webpack or Parcel or whatever you're using, it becomes even more relevant to have a bit of Node knowledge. You don't have to be a master of the entire, because Node is a big concept. You don't have to know everything, but you're going to you're going to see it at some point because it is that tightly coupled these days to front-end work. Have a great day.